So hi. So today we're doing the last chapter for the whole curriculum. It's going to be on laptops and other mobile devices. This will be a big part of what we do next week for the class. So the in presence it's gonna be in Quebec City. I hope you've been able to like organize everything on your side. If you have any questions, don't hesitate for what's happening next week. Yeah, and next week we're going to work a lot. Why do I do chapters 6 and 7 at the end? It's really because it's going to be the main focus of what we do next week. So we're going to pretty much work on routers and work on laptops and cell phones, so mobile phones, to be able to like understand how they work, but really go hands-on into these machines. So today I'm just going to present a little bit on, laptops, cell phones, mobile devices. See a little bit how they're how they're built, pretty much, and yeah. So to be able to then next week be able to have a look at it on with more details. So let's go with introduction. I'll just skip this one because it's just the introduction here. I'll just start with this one. So it's a little quiz. So you are offline, but you need to work with full copies of a spreadsheet and word processor program. What would you use? A smartwatch, a laptop, a tablet, a smartphone, or a e-reader? So what would be your answer here? E-reader? That's right. Oh, doesn't even. No, it's not possible. First time I use this one. So not e-reader. So what should it be? So I'm saying full copies of spreadsheet word processor program. Tablet. I wouldn't. The reason why I wouldn't go with an e-reader or a tablet is because these are called light clients. So most of the time, these features are used to be able to work using the internet, except the e-reader, which is mostly used to be able to just read text, even though some have more features. Tablets are supposed to be more like light clients. So they mostly work to be able to work within the Wi-Fi network. For this one, I will go with laptop because the keyword here is full copies of a spreadsheet in a word processor. So when you think of full versions, you mostly go with laptops, even though Google has released a type of laptop which is called a light client, which is called Chromebooks. So this is a light version of a laptop, basically. So a woman is hiking in the park and does not have a smart watch, but wants to upload data from her fitness tracker to the internet. What would she has, with the keyword being does not have a smart watch? So smartphone, let's write out. Yes, there you go. So it's possible to do it with a smartphone. Next, a mother wants to keep her child entertained with a game while she talks to a friend on her smartphone. So what would be tablet? Very good. You want to read a book while you are at the beach, but don't want to bring your more expensive computer device, smartwatch, or e-reader. E-reader, very good. And the last one is a sports fan leaves his smartphone at home but still wants to be alerted to the score of some football games while he is out jogging. Smartwatch would work. So these are different mobile devices, and it's just the introduction to what they do. Do I have anything? No, that's good. All right. So mobility, I'm not going to tell you what this is. It's quite simple. Laptops, you know what laptops are. They insist on saying that they usually run full version of operating systems such as Microsoft Windows, iOS, or Linux. As I said, there are a couple of laptops that are light clients. I'm talking about Chromebooks, for example. Some other types are released out there. Mostly, they would work on lighter versions of operating system. There's Chrome OS out there. That's a light version of Android, but made for these kind of light client laptops. Windows has released also a version of Windows which is less, which takes less space on a hard drive, but has also less features, and which is designed to work online most of the time using Office 365. So the online cloud version of what you would have, for example, like Office, which for Windows is called Office 365. Google has pretty much the same kind of things related to Google Drive. So there you go. Smartphone characteristics. Mostly, they're designed to work with through the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and also the using the cellular waves. The Normally, there's a GPS on them. There's also a rotor, which is kind of designed to see the angle at which you have it. So, for example, to be able to, if you switch it to a horizontal, the horizontal side, the cell phone will adapt its display on the different angles. These are pretty much things that you already know. So they are designed to work with limited operating systems. So there's mostly iOS on the Apple side, and mostly Android on the Google side. Smartphone features, GPS. I said that. Wi-Fi access. You can also tether or share cellular data connections with other devices using your cell phone. So, for example, if you have a laptop computer and you want to access the internet, but do not, you're not at home, you could use your cellular phone as an access point. So that's pretty much here. Tablets and e-reader. Lots of them. E-readers, there are different models. Some of them are closer to a tablet. Some of them they just they use a different kind of display where there's no backlight related. E-readers are usually built to last longer than tablets, so 15 to 20 hours. For the rest, really, tablets are, you already know about them. I've already told you that they work mostly on Android or iOS. There's also the newer versions of hybrids between tablets and computers. The one that we use at the office is Microsoft Surface, which is designed to be like in between a tablet and a computer. That's it. Smartwatches and fitness trackers. So smartwatches, you get, for example, the iWatch, which is the most popular right now. There are sensors that can gather data of such as heart rate, sleep patterns, that kind of things. Fitness trackers are, I would say, less complete versions of the smartwatch. It's mostly there to just track your the exercise that you do. So make sure that you are fit. So mostly they would detect heart attacks. Yes, monitor air quality, detect oxygen levels in the blood, that kind of things. Mostly used to for by healthcare practitioners, but also uh, most of you can actually purchase one just to just to track your uh, well your exercise. And that's it. Wearables. Oh yeah, augmented reality and virtual reality. The difference between the two is augmented reality is mostly designed to superpose itself to the reality. Well, you've probably played a little bit of Pokemon Go. That's pretty much the idea here. You superpose a Pokemon to the real world, so it's kind of there to work within the real world. Whereas virtual reality cuts you from the real world to impose a another reality. So it's kind of the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality. Augmented reality has many applications nowadays. Google thought they would be able to sell a lot of their Google glasses. It didn't work. Just to function with an augmented reality. Most of the time, right now, what we use is a cell phone or a tablet. For example, here, the purpose of this augmented reality would be to understand how a machine works just by being able to film it with the camera, be able to touch the different arrows that you have here to see what is the purpose of the different parts of this machine. So there are many applications of virtual reality nowadays. Uh, Sorry, augmented reality nowadays. Virtual reality is still, something that's it hasn't shown its full potential right now, even though the gaming industry is starting to use them. For example, PlayStation has released an augmented reality set. There are different sets also that you could buy, like that are self-sufficient. But the problem is, since these are small implements, the refresh rate is not as good as, for example, if you were able to plug it to a computer. So there are models that you can plug to the computers that are, I would say, more seamless. So there you go. If you have any questions on them, don't hesitate. At the FNEC level here, we lended to schools. So we have a set of virtual reality headset that we lend to schools, for example, to if you are to teach, well, if some of the teachers are to teach, let's say, history, they could, for example, bring the students to, I don't know if you've ever played Assassin's Creed. They could actually bring the students, for example, to re, um, the recreation of for example, Rome or ancient Greece or ancient Egypt, and show them the different monuments, for example, the way the people used to live at that moment, just by using the virtual reality renditions, for example. Okay. Laptops, smartphone, tablets, e-reader. Okay, all of this is kind of clear. So if you have more, if you want more information, you can just do this exercise here. But it's pretty straightforward, I would say. There, here you have the video explanation of external features that are unique to laptops. I suggest that you listen to it before you do the exam. Oh, just saying, the exam has been. I've opened the exam for chapter 7 until next week, when we're going to meet. So I've opened them until January 21st, so that you can complete it before the class. All right, here you have an explanation of input device in laptops. I'm going to explain most of them. So yes, please do the exam before you leave for chapter 7. So for motherboards, here you have a full-fledged motherboard for a desktop. The advantage of this kind of motherboard is it's very standard. So there are different form factors that you have here, which are the most common: ATX, micro ATX, mini ITX, which is normal for laptops. But the thing is, for desktops, but for laptops, most of the motherboards are proprietary. So you have an example here. So they're designed to be smaller, but the thing is, when you have to replace them, it's not as simple. So you really have to make sure that you have a motherboard that's compatible with your chassis from your computer. So whereas on the desktop, it's pretty standard. Same thing for expansion slots. Most of the on a laptop, it's mostly mini PCI. I'm going to show you a little bit about what it looks like a little bit later. Whereas on a laptop, you have different expansion slots that are possible. Most of the RAM on a desktop is DIMM. On a laptop, it's mostly SODIMM. I'm going to show you the difference too, and you're going to have the chance to look it up next week, when we tear the different pieces, the different parts of a laptop apart, just for your pleasure. I just want to remember everyone here to bring their tools next week, just to make sure, make sure that you can, work on the laptops that you're going to have in your hands. So internal components, it's pretty much the same thing. It's just that the internal components of a laptop are designed to be smaller. So for example, for the RAM, here you can see that it's a SODIMM. So it's a little bit different from a DIMM RAM. So it's designed to be a little bit smaller, a little bit and a little bit higher for its design. So yeah, the CPUs are pretty much the same, but they're not installed the same way as with a desktop, where we are going to be able to see it, of course. The SATA drive is designed to be mostly smaller, so the devices are 1.8 inches or 2.8, the 2.5 inches, whereas on a desktop, it's typically designed to be 3.5 inches. So yeah. Solid state drives, here you go. So you have an example here of an SSD drive that's designed to be installed on a laptop here. So these are different connectors. So here on the side is, of course, the power connector of the computer. Here you would have the image is not very big here. Okay, this would be probably an HDMI connector that you have on the side. This would be, you already know about RJ45 connectors, USB connectors, and headphones. So this is typically a jack connector. Pretty, you've probably seen that before. This is pretty much the headphone jack. I don't have one on my phone. Yeah, the new phones, to be able to have I would say to be more waterproof. A lot of phones yeah, I know. A lot of phones they don't include like the headphone jacks, for example, or that kind of things, so that there's less possibility of water to enter the phone. So in the future, you might actually have none of these headphone jacks on your phones, or even the technology at some point will probably lead us to have phones that even don't have connectors to be able to get electricity. You'll just have to put it on an electricity induction plate, for example. Yeah, Apple hates sports, but there's a reason for that. It's really just to make the device waterproof as much as possible, which is pretty much impossible if you have an opening into the device. So yeah, but yeah, Apple hates sports. Absolutely. So it's going to be replaced by Bluetooth most of the time. So yes, right now I know that Apple sells, or I think the iPhone comes with a Lightning connector that's connected to a jack. An adapter for a jack, like this. Yeah, there you go. There are special function keys. I'm going to just show you very fast on my computer. There you have the example here of the function F7. The function sorry, display of a laptop are there to be able to have as little as possible buttons on the computer, because it needs to be small. So basically, the function F7 is there to switch the display to be able to get the display from a computer to a screen here. I'm just going to show my screen very fast. There you go. So mostly you have this icon that you have, and you have mostly the F1, F2, F12 versions here to be able to, for example, luminosity, look at the batteries, power, turning on and off the PC, playing music, being able to rewind or play or pause. Yeah, so these are the FN keys on a laptop computer. There you go. So you can have GPS on and off, airplane mode, touchpad on and off, etc. So FN functions might differ from one computer to another computer. So, but this is pretty much how they work. Okay, docking station and port replicators. Okay. Whoops. Okay. So docking stations, are there to be able to put a laptop on a station and connect as if it were a desktop computer. So the moment that you insert the computer in the docking station, it's going to kind of use the existing screens. For example, if you have two screens, it's going to adapt. It's going to also have a couple of port replicators, whereas the port replicator is the thing that I have right now on my computer. I can actually show you. It's going to be easier this way. So since for example, here I have, as you can see, a Surface laptop. There are not a lot of ports on the laptop. It's designed to be as convenient as possible. So this is why I have here my port replicator, okay, to be able to connect to my workstation. So this is pretty much the way that it works for a port replicator here, whereas the older version of the port replicator for most of the laptop computers is the docking station. So this is pretty much it. Okay, different possibilities for displays too. The LCD, as you can see here, is not very different from the LED display. and but they differ from the light source. So the light source here.
Your attention. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, I'm okay. It's just that I'm hearing your. I'm hearing the. I'm just going to mute you because I can hear the interbox from your school. So here you have the behind it you have the light source, which is a light panel. Whereas for an LED display, you have these backlights, which are individual LEDs that are behind the screen. So for the rest, really, there are different layers. The first is a polarizing filter. You have electrodes to electrode here, electrodes that are here to be able to move the liquid crystal. The liquid crystal is there to will adapt inside the display and in between the electrodes. Then the color filter is superposed to this layer. Then you have the polarizing filter and the display surface, which is mostly which has, of course, to be transparent to be able to actually see the difference, the colors of the screen. So that's pretty much it for the liquid crystal display. Light emitting diode really has pretty much the same kind of things, except the backlight is individual LED lights. You have also the OLED, which is a slightly different technology where every OLED pixel produce their own lights. So it's the difference between the different displays that you would have on, of course, a laptop, but most of the computer screens that you could have also. So these are different technologies. Okay, there are displays that are different on some laptops. For example, you have a detachable screen, which is the case with the Surface Book that I'm using right now. So I can actually detach the screen and make it a tablet, as I said at the beginning. Touch screens also, not all of the laptops have them. And the cutoff switch is when you like when you have the top of the top of the laptop when you close it. So when you close the case, there's a cutoff switch that gives a signal to the computer to put the computer on hibernate, for example. And actually, you decide on what they do at that moment. There are different possibilities for either hibernation or turning the computer totally off, which are things that we're going to see this morning. Okay, so here you have an example of inverter. The inverter's purpose is to transfer the direct current that we talked about before into the alternating current, the direct current, into alternating current. So the idea is to change the way that the current flows into the screen to make sure that the screen can work. Then you have the fluorescent backlight here, which can be different between the LCD and the LED. So here is an example of LED backlight. So you can see that all the different lights are individual, whereas here I would say it's probably the one that's not individual. That's one and only light behind a monitor. Here you have the inverter here. So to translate the direct current into alternating current to have the monitor work, and yeah, these are the LED backlights. So I'll let you do this before the exam. Okay, so for the Wi-Fi, most of the time, the Wi-Fi antenna will be at the top of the monitor. So if you open the chassis of the monitor, on the top, you will see the actual antenna. This is the NIC card of a laptop. This one is probably mini PCI. You can see that that it's connected to the PCI port, but there are also two places where you can connect the current to be able to provide current to the antenna here, and also get the not only the current but also the data. So so these are the wires to be able to do so. So this is connected normally to the the base of the laptop, where you would have the keyboard. So this is normally located behind the keyboard. You have the wires here, and normally they go. One is going on the left, and one is going on the right of the chassis of the monitor of the laptop. So this is pretty much how it works. You will have the occasion to observe this next week when we work with laptops. Of course, there's a webcam normally, and there are two little dots that are the microphones of the laptop. Don't really have to. Okay, these are the different states of the laptop computer mostly. So as they correspond to states that are called S0, S1, S2, S3, S4, and S5. S0 means the computer is on and the CPU is running. So this is the normal state of a laptop computer. S1 means the CPU and RAM are still receiving power, but unused devices are powered down. So this is a first level of, I would say, hibernation. So the computer is still working, but so some of the devices of the computer are powered down. The S2 is if when the CPU is off, so the computer is not working at that moment, but the RAM is refreshed. So this means that the thing is it needs some power to be able to function, but it needs very little power, because if the RAM has no power, the RAM will just not function, of course. So so it's a lower mode than S1, of course. S3 is when the CPU is off, so doesn't receive power. The RAM is set to a slow refresh rate, so it takes less electricity from the battery. This mode is often called save to RAM. The S4 is when the CPU and the RAM are off, so they don't receive any power. So the content of the RAM is saved on a temporary file on the hard disk. So this mode doesn't need electricity. So it's so the computer is so the important data from the RAM is still saved, but it's since it's on the hard drive, there's no electricity needed for it to function. And S5, everything is turned off in the computer. To be able to change these settings, here you just sorry, you'll have to excuse my French, of course. You just have to go to here, system. So this one, which is power. And you can actually change it here. So, for example, when the battery, when the screen, for example, so when it's on the battery, when you turn it off, that kind of thing. So this is one way of changing the power. The power options of the computer. The other way is to function within the configuration panel. You have here so there are more possibilities with the configuration panel. It's this one, power options. here, you can actually go to modify the settings of the mode here. For example, for normal use, you can actually change what's happening on the battery, and from this you can actually modify the go to the advanced settings. So modify the advanced settings here, and go granularly to, for example, here on, I could decide to change how much time it takes to be on the battery. How many minutes will there be after I'm on the battery on the sector here, etc. So you can really go in details on what options you want for for the power of your laptop. So these are pretty much the informations that you would need here. Okay. So you can also manage the settings of of the power in the BIOS. So in the BIOS you have the system states, the battery and AC modes, the thermal management. We've seen that a little bit before. The CPU PCI bus power management, and the Wacom LAN that requires a cable connection inside the computer from the network adapter to the motherboard for this special mode. Wacom LAN is not available on every machine, just to tell you. So you can actually configure all these features into the BIOS. Okay, so here's a check your understanding just before the exam if you want to try it out, seeing which modes correspond to S0, S1, S2, S3, S4, and S5. Of course, that's what we've seen here. Okay. So you have here pretty much what I've been explaining right now with into a video. You can actually review before the exam with this video here. Okay, Bluetooth. There are three classes of Bluetooth. It's mostly for the different purposes that you would have for your Bluetooth. For example, if you have a Bluetooth headset, you don't necessarily need it to be accessible from 330 feet. So 3 feet is enough, because most of the time your cell phone will be very close to your headset. Whereas if you have a Bluetooth speaker, you might want it to be 3 feet away from the source. And if you have, for example, well, I'm trying to think here, but you can have a device that connected to the Bluetooth from 330 feet, which is not necessary in most options. So these are the different classes of Bluetooth classifications. You have the specifications also, but this is more the specifications have more to do with the data transfer rate. So for example, if you go with the 5.0, so you can go up to 2 megabits per second of transfer rate, whereas when you're on the specification number 1, so the version 1.2, the transfer rate is 1 megabit per second, which is very slow, but some devices don't need more than that. So it really has to do with your need and the kind of device that you would pair with your Bluetooth through the Bluetooth protocol. Laptop connections. Okay, Bluetooth is activated by default on most computers. You can activate it on or deactivate it using the BIOS, of course, and of course you can deactivate it and deactivate it within the operating system. But of course, if it's deactivated on the BIOS, you won't be able to access it with the operating system that you're using. So yeah, but you've used Bluetooth before, I'm pretty sure. So you have here how to configure Bluetooth, but I'm pretty sure that you've done it in the past. So you don't necessarily have a need for me to explain to you how to pair a Bluetooth device. You've probably done this before. It's pretty standard now. So you have the possibility also of using the cell phone as a personal hotspot. I'm pretty sure some of you have done this in the past. So what you do pretty much is you turn this on in your device's OS operating system, and then you will be able to pair any, I would say, for example, laptop computer that's close to your cell phone using a password that's given to you. So that's pretty simple to do. Uh, you have also these kinds of devices. That's the kind of device I was using when I was in Japan. So what I did is I rented a cellular hotspot device. So that on the device normally you have the display here that will tell you the password to be able to access the internet with any device you have close to it, using the cellular waves from wherever you are. So this is how I was able to access the internet in Japan from pretty much any place I was using then my cell phone to access it that I connected to the cellular hotspot device. So yeah. So normally it's connected to the 4G LTE, of course. This is pretty straightforward, I would say. Okay, so there are different wireless adapter types. So for the first one is mini PCI. I would say the most common on the laptops. You have also mini PCI Express here, which is another factor form, and PCI Express Micro, which is a little bit smaller than the mini PCI here. So it has to do with the different PCI buses that you would have on your laptop computer. And as I said, every motherboard is different. So make sure that you have that your wireless adapter type is compatible with the motherboard of your laptop computer. There you go. Okay, true or false? We'll do this one. So Bluetooth devices are capable of handling voice, music, video, and data. Is it true or false? Oh, you can answer into the chat pod. True. Thank you. There you go. Class 1 Bluetooth devices have a range of approximately 100 meters or 330 feet. Also, and no, it's true. The first one is if you go back to the curriculum here, you can see it's the class 1 is actually the one that goes the farthest into the different classes of Bluetooth. So no problem. So there you go. Tethering allows other devices to access the internet through a cell phone. And yeah, this is true. This is called tethering, and here what they call personal hotspot is a form of tethering, actually. And then configuring a wireless network connection is performed through the system security settings of within the control panel. True. No, it's false. In the control panel, you select the network and internet setting. So there you go. Okay, on these ones, the express cards, you have two kinds of express cards: the dash 54 and the dash 34, which the amount of millimeters in width that they represent. So these are expansion cards that you could put inside that are designed to put inside inside a laptop computers. Not all laptop computers they have them though. They could be put there to put additional memory card readers, external hard drive access, TV tuner cards, USB and FireWire ports, and Wi-Fi connectivity. These are pretty much there to just to expand on what a laptop computer can do. And as I said, nowadays, not all, and I would say not a lot of laptop computers have them, but know that they exist. And that some of the laptop computers they have this. You need to have, of course, a bay in the computer to be able to insert them. And as I said, not all computers have these kind of bays to be able to implement these expansion cards. Okay, flash memory. Of course, you already know them. You already know the USB stick, what they call also a flash drive. I'm not going to explain it to you. The flash cards here that you have were used a lot back in the days sorry on digital cameras to be able to plug into the computer using this bay that you have here. Now you have smaller flash cards than these ones. So most of the time you would need an adapter to be able to lodge them directly into this bay in the computer. So normally what you do if you have smaller flash cards than these ones, you would be able just to use the adapter to plug them directly into the computer. Yep. Simple. Smart card readers, of course, you can go contact, for example, here you could just insert the credit card into the smart card reader. The contactless is what you see nowadays. You just use your credit card, for example, just tap it to the device. There are different kinds of smart card readers. Some of them are as you can see here, some of them, like this one, would work with the Bluetooth, for example. So you just have to pair it with, for example, a cell phone using Bluetooth. Some of them, I don't know if you've seen the square device. So you have to slide the card into the square device that you plug into the cell phone using the jack the jack plug. So there are different ways of doing this, and of course you have contact. So you insert it or you slide it, or contactless, where you just have to tap it to the device. Most of the time to be able to pay for any kind of things. I see them a lot in conventions right now, where people have to be mobile and they're presenting their products into a convention fair in the middle. So lots of vendors they have these kind of devices at hand for people who don't want to pay cash. Okay, SODIMM memory. I've talked about SODIMM. SODIMM has 72 pins and 100 pin configurations to support 32-bit transfer and 144-bit pins, 200 pin and 204 pins configurations for 64-bit transfer. It's a little bit different on how you would install SODIMM into a laptop computer compared to a desktop computer, what we have done before. So as you can see here, they're designed to be horizontal within the laptop computer. So what you would do most of the time is just push it. It would get like 45 degrees at a 45-degree angle from the laptop. Then you just have to slide it out and put the new RAM into it. So you insert it and then you press on it. so that it becomes a horizontal with the computer. So, and as I said, you will have the chance to try to do it when you're in Quebec City. So we're going to see how to change the RAM within a laptop computer. So it's a little bit different, and also you can see the factor is a little bit different on how it's designed. So it's pretty simple to do. It's just that it's good to see it one time and to actually try it out. Has any of you opened a laptop computer to change the RAM into it? Have you done this in the past? So here you have a video to show it. Okay. So here. Nah, okay. So you didn't try it out. Okay, so you will have the chance to see it on the computers that we have. The laptop computers that we have here, there are two bays for changing the RAM. So it's good to have both options. One is located behind on the bottom of the computers, which is easily accessible. The other one you have to actually remove the keyboard to be able to insert the RAM underneath the keyboard. So it's good to see different options too, because what's interesting with laptop computers is every laptop computer is different. So you are going to be able to see so many different models. So it's good to actually look at the vendors. Documentation to be able to change pretty much anything into the laptop computer. Another thing that's important to know with laptop computers is most of the companies, if you for most of the companies, there are things that could be changed by the user, and some things need to be changed by the company itself. So if you want to change some things or to replace some parts on a laptop computer, if you do for some of the parts, if you do so, uh, the company's warranty will be void. It's a good thing to know. So you might look at the vendor's documentation to know what can be changed by you and what cannot be changed by you. Most of the time, the RAM is something that you can change. But for example, the wireless the wireless antenna is not something that you are supposed to change unless you don't mind rendering the warranty void. And also, of course, the moment that the warranty is actually void, well, you can do pretty much anything with your computer. But the computers that we're going to use are to be able to tear down will be old computers that we purchased for that sole purpose. So don't worry about breaking anything. Okay, we're going to take a break. We come back, if you don't mind, at 10:15. And yeah, I'll see you in 15 minutes.
Assurément, ça va l'air d'être quelque chose de. La 10, ça a l'air d'être compliqué, mais ça n'a pas l'air non plus d'être. Ouais, mais de ton type.
c'était juste drôle parce que je pouvais dire qu'elle avait des centimètres et elle donne à des mètres aussi. C'est pas bien la peine de la aussi. Elle avait un gueulé, fait que quand elle avait fait je ferais mettre la puissance du fait.
Avec raison. Avec raison. En bas de ça,
Elle donnait.
hey, c'est tout grave. C'est vraiment fou à quel point c'est grave. Et ça dépend de quoi. Tu regardes le monde, les mondes qu'on connaît qui ont un MBA. Puis, c'est pas si pire. On se comprend. Mais c'est moins pire, mettons, qu'il y a quelqu'un qui est en train de faire une maîtrise sur Greenfield, je sais pas quoi.
Mais en sciences humaines, c'est quelque chose. La maîtrise, c'est vraiment quelque chose. Parce que toute l'importance du corpus théorique qui est là. Tout ton appareil théorique va être très, très bien fixé. Ensemble, t'as moins en sciences appliquées. C'est un peu moins compliqué parce que tu as besoin de vraiment d'aller autant chercher un appareil théorique. C'est rapide, en fait, c'est quelque chose. Ça doit être vraiment une idée.
La littérature, du coup, il avait dit à un moment donné, parce que ça faisait partie des. On dit des maths les plus faciles, les plus durs en même temps. Moi, j'étais content. Donc, ben, tu sais, c'est facile, parce que dans les faits, c'est facile. Mais, le nombre de livres qu'il faut que tu lises par cours, c'est débile. Si vous n'avez pas un guide de lecture de mon gars, et que le mémoire, tu le laisses travailler, parce que ça se peut qu'on me pose la question, je ne sais pas pourquoi, et dans quel livre, de quel auteur, à quel endroit.
Parlons un petit peu du contexte.
Parle-moi un peu de son contexte familial.
Alors,
C'est la moitié d'un chapitre.
mais honnêtement, ça s'est dépassé. Mais c'est clair que ça va être mon type de mémoire. Ma manière de fonctionner. Je vais quitter de vie avec ça. C'est-à-dire qu'il n'y a pas de moi vraiment. Il faut quand même faire des liens qui mettent les trucs en contexte. C'est pour faire une littérature.
Non, c'est ça. C'est pour ça que je disais, dans les textes, ça avait été décrit comme un bac facile et réellement difficile.
Non, c'est ça. Ben, parce que c'est ça, il faut que tu lises.
Il y en a un qui m'avait dit, dans son bac au complet, c'était à peu près 300 livres.
Ouais, parce qu'il faut que tu lises de la théorie, mais ton objet d'étude, c'est aussi des livres.
Ouais.
Fait que tu lis des livres à côté. Fait que puis à côté de la théorie et des livres.
Il y en a dans les lecture.
Puis des livres, c'est la théorie. Oh! Seems we've lost a participant. Just making sure the chat is here. Mix that muted. I forgot to mute my my microphone. No problem. So, quick question. Go ahead. I'm all ears. The program? Yes. Yeah, I think it's available for 3 months. Yeah, absolutely. The slides, I get that. Yes, I think it's available for 3 months after the program. I can actually go back to another course I've been doing through this material. It's not available indefinitely, but yeah, there's a certain time after the program where it will be available. Did I answer your question? No problem. Worst case scenario, you could also think. I'll just double check, but I think you could actually purchase the book if you want to have access to it indefinitely. So IT Essential. There you go. Today trend by new. So 6242 for the book that's called IT Essentials version 6, which is the new version of IT Essentials, the one that we're doing right now. Excellent. So it's not. It's a decent price. Thinking that the book is a big one, and there's a lot of information to it. For example, here this semester, I'm doing a course at the university, and my book is $120. So this is the kind of book that 6242 in that kind of editions is good. The yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jacques, for your your intervention, because yes, absolutely. This is actually why I decided to go with this particular curriculum. It's actually because it refers to so many things that a technician is doing within the job. The job. Of course, after that, if you want to go more in depth into different parts of other curricula, it's possible. But at least you will have had an introduction to a lot of things that had to do with an IT technician's job. So yes, also the ebook is 84, so it's not too much either. And yeah, you can actually rent it also, since it's the first time that I see it. All right, so good. Let's continue. If you don't have any other questions, which was in that case very useful to the course. Over here, hardware replacement. That's pretty much what I was talking about before. Some of the parts are meant to be replaced by the users, and some of the parts are meant to be replaced directly by the vendor. The first parts are called field replaceable units. So include components as the motherboard, LCD display, that kind of things are the units that are not there to be replaceable by the users. Of course, you could decide to work in a workshop in a company, for example, where your job would actually be to replace these parts. For example, with IT Essentials, you could decide to apply for the Apple Store, that kind of things, to be able to replace these parts. So it could be part of your job. Just saying. So you have an example here where you have to remove the keyboard from a laptop to be able to access the different parts of the computer. Here you can actually see it's probably the SODIMM behind it. The image is not clear, but I'm pretty sure this would be the SODIMM. Here you would probably have the optical drive on the right, so to be able to get inside the laptop. So you can see that you have less space to maneuver, of course, compared to what you've done with the desktops. But it's good to try it out also. Okay, you have an example here of keyboard replacement. If you want to look at the video, of course, we're going to actually do this next week. Screen replacement. Okay, power. You have two things, of course. You have the battery, and you have the sector. The sector is here, so you can see that it's still easily replaceable. So you would just have to disconnect this yellow part here and disconnect this white part here to be able to change the sector power on there. So it's not too complex most of the time, but of course there are more complex devices. I can actually show you mine very fast. So, whoops, no, start video. There you go. So on my computer, you can see that it's very thin and it's not designed to be able to be easily accessible. So, but most of the laptop computers are supposed to be easier to open than this one. Just to show you different possibilities here. Of course, also most of the time on most models, the battery is easy to disconnect. Make sure that the sector power is not connected, and then you know normally what you have is two buttons here on the side, two sliders on each side. One is for the lock, and one is actually to be able to slide the battery off. So most of the time you just slide the two sliders here, and then you pull on the battery this way. It's on most cases is how it's done. Make sure that you have the right battery. The same thing as I was saying before, there is no standard for laptops. So if you are to replace the battery, make sure that it's compatible with the laptop you are using. So you will see this in the characteristics the of the laptop, and of course the characteristics of the battery. Most of the time you will when you purchase a new battery, for example if you go online, they will tell you with which model this battery is compatible. So if you are to replace any parts, normally they will tell you, for example, this battery is compatible with the Dell model SX340 and SX345, for example. There you go, DC jack replacement. So if you want to look it up. So here you have a lab to research laptop batteries. We're not going to do this one, but okay. Okay, internal storage and optical drive. Normally, and I say normally, as I said, there's no standard. To be able to remove the internal storage and the optical drive, what you do is you will have normally you put the laptop upside down. You will have a couple of screws to unscrew. Then you will be able to slide the drive out of the computer. So that's pretty much how it works. The thing is, the optical drive nowadays, not most new laptops don't have an optical drive, so it's becoming more and more rare. The reason being that it takes a lot of space. The fact they try to make laptops as thin and light as possible. So a lot of companies to get rid of the optical drive nowadays. Also, the reason is that today a lot of software can be found directly on the internet. So you don't, and also even for music nowadays, not a lot of people, well, I would say less and less people, they use the CDs, and same thing for the movies, and less and less people, they use DVDs or Blu-rays. A lot of people nowadays are switching to downloading directly on the internet, mostly because the internet service providers, they give you access to more downloadable, more download per month. So that's why pretty much right nowadays the optical drive is being replaced on the laptops. So just saying, of course, it's not the same for the internal storage, the hard drives, which most of the time, as I said, is just you just have to put the computer upside down. You unscrew a couple of screws that are normally identified, and then you just slide it from the external edge of the computer, and you just have to do the contrary when you insert a new internal storage. So there you go. We're actually going to be able to see it next week. So there you go. wireless card replacement is not too complicated either. So these are mostly videos here. Okay. Okay. Simple question. Thermal paste should be applied after installing the CPU heatsink. True. No, sorry. Oh no, sorry. Not on. Sorry, not on. Sorry, not on laptops. Sorry about that. Thermal paste is applied on the CPU prior to installing the heatsink. That's the that's the catch here. Before replacing laptop components, both the battery and power cables should be removed. True. There you go. Laptop manual should be consulted before removing any components. True. There you go. Actually, the reason behind that is every laptop is different. The manual for a desktop is not that useful because it's pretty much everything is standard on a desktop. On a laptop, it's a totally different thing. So the manual will be useful all the time. Component replacement steps are the same for all laptop. I'll go with false already. Yes, thank you. Laptop motherboards have a standard form factor and will fit most all laptops. Yes, false. Laptop batteries and RAM modules are considered customer replaceable units. This one is true, however. What I'm saying here is when you if you have to call the company to honor its warranty, most of the time for, I would say, batteries, RAM, batteries and RAM are very in most cases very easy to replace. So they won't ask you to send it to their workshop to be able to replace them. It's actually something a user could do. For most of the other things, it's not designed to be replaced. Sometimes I remember I had a laptop at some point, and they sent me a new screen. So I could actually just and it was easy to install. So they let the customer do it with a couple of directions to be able to actually do it. So everything there's no absolute rule there, but for most of the models, the batteries and the RAMs are replaceable by the user. I'll give you an example here also. Replacing the wireless antenna is not something that the question is, wouldn't that void your warranty? Normally, and I say normally, not for batteries and not for RAM, because they are very easy to replace. Most model. Okay, look at the user's manual to make sure that this is the case, or call the vendor. So you will see they will be able to tell you. And as I said, there's no absolute rule there. However, if when it comes, it should probably be the same for in most models for the hard drive. Normally, it's you can actually replace it without rendering the warranty void. I will show you an exception here on my, which is this one. You can see here that this computer is the Microsoft Surface. And here, there is no place where there are screws, and everything on it, okay, is designed not to be easily replaceable. This is pretty much what we would call, I would say, the Apple, what I would call the Apple model. So same thing for the iPad. The iPad is not designed to be easily to easily change anything into this. So for this specific model, I'll just okay, stop video. Okay, for this specific model, nothing is replaceable without rendering the warranty void. Same thing, next week we're going to work on 2 different models of iPhones to be able to replace the screen and see where the battery is located. Opening an iPhone renders the warranty void. It's the same thing as for this model of computer, which is the Windows model. Because it's the actual Apple model, to be able to when you need to replace something, you need to get your device to the Apple, or in this case Windows workshop. So if you decide to change anything, you can actually do it, but it would render the warranty void. And of course, when the warranty is void anyway, you just do whatever you want. So there are out there, for example, if you go to iFixit, it's an example website. You can actually purchase like toolkits to be able to replace pretty much anything within your within the within, for example, the iPhone, iPad, Mac, Android world, and they give you examples of how to do it. So there are it comes with videos of how to do it. These people, what they do is they reverse engineer the devices, and they explain to you how to replace pretty much anything. So it's so that's a good place to go when you need to replace, I would say, pretty much anything. So here's for the explanation. So the memory here for the cell phone is something that normally you can replace on most models. I think the iPhones don't have any bay to be able to lodge them. However, SIM card, yes, of course, this needs to be something that you can replace. Battery, depends on the models. As I said, it's mostly the Apple. It's mostly the Apple way to work, except a lot of vendors now they do the same thing. For example, here I can actually show you my cell phone here. You can see that there are no screws around this. So this is a Samsung Galaxy A1, and you can see, and so Samsung right now has done the same with most of its models. So they're now very hard to open. If you want to change the battery, you void the warranty. It's pretty much the same thing as an iPhone, but of course there are ways to doing so. You could go to iFixit and they would explain to you, or any other vendor. iFixit is the one that I know the most, to be able to replace any part, including the screen. The screen is possible. It's possible for you to replace the screen, the battery, pretty much anything inside your phone. But of course, if it's still under warranty, you do this at your own risks and perils. So, yes. Okay, different cables. Of course, you have here the mini USB cable, which is becoming less and less in use because it's mostly replaced by the USB-C cable that you have here. Micro USB cable also is one of the norms. You have the lightning cable and port, which is a proprietary version of the cables from Apple. And of course, here you have different other proprietary cables and ports that you could actually have. We've discussed this before. I just wanted to refresh the memory for everyone. So it's simple for this one. Between two devices, there are different means also to communicate or information or to send files without having to use any wires at all or cables at all. The first one is near field communication. It's the same. It's the same technology that you would have with contactless payment. For example, with the NFC, near field communication into my cell phone. I could actually just tap my cell phone to the to a payment implement, like when I go to Tim Hortons or McDonald's or that kind of things. I just have to tap my phone on the device to be able to pay. So this is made to the near field communication implement of the cell phone. Same thing if I want to send a file to another cell phone, you could actually use the NFC feature, just tapping one cell phone on the other cell phone to exchange something. Infrared is an old technology. It's using colors that some of the colors that we cannot see with the human eyes because they are under the red spectrum. So pretty much it use the infrared to be able to communicate between two devices. That's what typically was used by TV remotes, but you could use this also with some cell phones are equipped with infrared communicators. Bluetooth, we've talked about this before. Tether, same thing. Mobile hotspots, we've talked about this before, so I won't explain more. You can actually check your understanding here before the exam. Wearable devices, we've talked about fitness monitors, smartwatch, and VR, AR headsets. Not going to give more information. GPS, you've used them before. E-reader, we've discussed this before. It's pretty simple. Normally, is there on most e-readers. The difference is that the screen has no backlight, so it's there to imitate a little bit how the books they function. So it imitates the ink of a book, but it's of course you can refresh the page and download a couple of books using that kind of e-readers. So wireless data networks, explain to you how to turn on the Wi-Fi and how to work with to install the Wi-Fi on a phone. I won't explain it. I'm pretty sure you've done this before. It's just that there are two different ways to work. One is with the Android devices and one is with the iOS devices. I won't explain this too much because I think it's really unuseful. Okay, we've talked about 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. So what we have now is mostly is the LTE cellular network. It's, I would say, it's a form of 4G. This was introduced in the late 2000s. It can go up to 1 gigabit per second, and now, but now we are going to switch, as I've explained before, to 5G at some point. It was introduced in 2019, but it's not installed anywhere. News from this year, like news from 2020, is the vendors are going to install the 5G technology on the new versions of the cell phones. So the next version of iPhones and the next version of, for example, Samsung telephones and Huawei and that kind of things are going to include the 5G. The thing is, it's not really, it won't be really useful because the actual 5G network won't be introduced in most cities at the moment where most of these cell phones will become obsolete. So normally there's a turnabout of, I would say, 2 years for the cell phones, 2-3 years. So we don't expect the 5G network to be implemented in any city in Canada before that time. I would say probably 2025. Probably the 5G will probably be implemented into into most Canadian cities. I think that's pretty much my what my crystal ball is telling me right now. Okay, airplane mode, you know it already. So I don't think it's really useful to show you a cellular data toggle. So you can turn the cellular data on a cell phone on or off. You have the way to do this here. Bluetooth. So for Bluetooth devices, you have wireless speakers, wireless headphones, wireless keyboards and mice, and wireless gaming controllers. These are examples of Bluetooth devices. Bluetooth pairing. Is there anyone here who never paired a Bluetooth device? It's kind of simple, really. You turn it on your device, you turn it on your cell phone or computer. Then normally what it does is you have to select the setting Bluetooth inside your device. Either the computer or the cell phone. Then you turn it on. You select the identifier that you have for your Bluetooth device. Normally, it tells you to enter the PIN that you would have on your device, depending on what you are pairing. So it's pretty simple. I'm pretty sure you've done this before. So email. What can I say about email? Oh yeah, there are different protocols for emails. The first one is POP3. POP3 is email client protocol, so that's here to retrieve emails from a remote server. So that's the POP3 protocol uses the port 110. So that's one of the protocols for emails. IMAP is also an email client protocol, but it uses port 143. It's faster than POP3. So that's it. SMTP is there to send. It's a protocol to send emails to a server. So it uses port 25. Normally, MIME is used to in conjunction with SMTP, which is these are two different protocols. It extends the text-based email to include pictures and word and other documents. So that's normally you have SMTP for just text, and MIME is there to be able to include other types of attachments most of the time. And SSL is there to transmit. Is a form of encryption for emails to make sure that a third party won't be able to intercept the messages. So the email address, everybody knows this. It's what you have before the at display name. Okay, so it's just email protocols we've seen before. These are the different protocols that are used to be able to communicate. We don't go very in depth into this in ITE Essentials, so we don't really explain the different protocols. This is one thing that you could actually do. This is one thing that you could actually do in CCNA, in the CCNA program. So to go deeper into what a protocol is and how to work within these protocols. But here, for ITE Essentials, we just explained them very fast. Okay. Account credentials, okay, simple. There you go. Okay, email configuration. So I think it's pretty simple here how to configure an email. We've done this before. So yeah, an email account to an iOS device. Also, you've done this before. Internet mail is there are pretty much two ways of working with the email. The first one is locally. So this means that inside your network you would have an email server with so this is local email. The other one is what I would call the cloud version. So you go with an email service that's located on a provider's server. So that's what you use for Gmail, Yahoo, uh, Hotmail, just to talk about the most popular ones that right now. So you know how to work this. I'm pretty sure every one of you have a Gmail or Hotmail account. Okay, synchronization is there to be able to have the data and the files common to all the devices that you are using. Most of the time, what you would need is an Apple ID, a Gmail ID, or a Microsoft ID. You would need to enter them into every one of your devices and configure it so that all your contacts, all your applications, emails, pictures, music, all of these would be synchronized between the different devices. For example, if I enter a contact on my cell phone and I use my Surface, or my laptop, I can have access to my contacts directly on my laptop. So this is called synchronization. Same thing for ebooks. For example, right now I'm using, for example, Amazon Kindle a lot to purchase books, to purchase ebooks. So since I have the same account for every device, I can actually read on my cell phone, on my computer, on my tablet, and it synchronizes where I am in that book between my different devices. So, for example, if I'm at the waiting at the dentist to be able for my appointment, I can still use my cell phone and read my book. My phone knows where I am in the book, and continue reading at home on my e-reader, for example. So these are different means of synchronization. So this is so they tell you how to sync data on an Android phone or other implement. So types of data to back up on Android. Same thing for iOS, and syncing data from iOS to iTunes. It explains to you how to do this. Of course, you can back up the data between different the different devices. Make sure that you have enough space. However, I think that if I'm not mistaken, I'm not an Apple user myself, but I think you have like 5 gig of data that you can sync from between devices. You would probably be able to tell me if that is true or not. I'm not exactly sure since I don't really use Apple myself. Google gives you access by default if you are using a Gmail account or a Google account to 15 gig of storage. And Microsoft with Office 365 gives you access to, by default, 15 gig. But of course, if you pay, you can have up to 1 terabyte of storage. So there you go. You can so for the connections, you can synchronize using a USB cable, Wi-Fi connections, and of course you can synchronize using the cellular data. One of the things that you don't want to do if you have a cell phone is turn this on. Like you could decide that when you can sync the information only when you are on a wireless network, in order not to use your cellular data, because of course we have less, most of the time we have less cellular data than we have wireless, then we have data from your internet service provider. So that's one thing you could do. This one is okay. So, for preventive maintenance, make sure that, well, what they say here, mobile devices are more likely than desktop computers to be exposed to harmful materials and situations. This is totally true. because these are things that you carry around. So it's easy to drop anything, like a so. Whereas desktops are designed to stay in one spot, but also they're more well done or well adapted to transportations. Use ammonia or alcohol to clean touchscreens on mobile devices. What do you say? Is it true that you should use ammonia and alcohol to clean touchscreens on mobile devices? I'll let you decide on this one. False. Thank you. Uh, they tell you not to use chemicals. There are cleaning solutions designed for that kind of thing, and use a lint-free cloth. So that's what that's what they say. Compressed air can be used to clean the cooling vents and fan of a laptop. Is it true or false for a laptop? There you go. It is true. Wet cloth should be used to clean mobile devices, device touch pads. Is it true or false? Thank you. Well, anyway, humidity and electronics don't work together, as you know. What they recommend here is a soft lint-free cloth that is moistened with an approved cleaner. Not some. It shouldn't be wet, of course, and it should be with with certain types of cleaners, and not pretty much what you would get from the grocery store, for example. All right. Yeah, reason for maintenance is it's clear. Of course, for mobile devices, it's always recommendable to have a sheath, to have a shell around it sorry. Mm, ah, not plastic, but not rubber. What's it called again? Not PVC. This kind of rubber plastic of silicone. Sorry, that has silicone edges, so that when you if you drop it, it won't break, like you can see here, because it's always costly to be able to replace a screen or any other thing within a mobile device. So there you go. Preventing maintenance, that's what they said. Exterior case, as I said, the best exterior cases are the ones with silicone edges. Cooling vents and IO ports should be cleaned using compressed air or non-electrostatic vacuum cleaner. Display with a soft lint-free cloth, lightly moistened with approved cleaner. The keyboard with a lint-free cloth that is lightly moistened with water or mild cleaning solution. What that they say. As I said, there is a certain cleaning goo that you could use. Looks like this. That you could use also here to be able to clean your keyboard. And touchpad, wipe the surface of the touchpad gently with a soft lint-free cloth that is moistened with an approved cleaner. Never use a wet cloth. So these are simple things to think about. So what they recommend here is cleaning the devices with what we said before. Make sure to back up the data once in a while. What I would recommend for mobile devices is using the cloud options that you have. For example, as I said, Microsoft and Google, they offer 15 gig of storage space, which is enough, I would say, for a cell phone, for example. So you can look it up and sync your data using these options. For example, same thing for Apple. I know that they have they provide a certain storage space too. Update the systems and application. Make sure that there is no liability regarding the, the, the the intrusion possibilities. So make sure that your iOS is always, your operating system, sorry, is always updated. Same thing for security patches. So make sure that it's always updated. We've discussed this before, and this is the end of this chapter. Make sure that you look at the troubleshooting process for mobile devices. I won't read it with you because it's something you can buy on your by yourself. As I said, most of the as I said, sorry, the exam will be open until January 21st. So please take a little bit of time to complete the exam before you arrive in Quebec City. I'm just going to talk very fast about what we are going to do next week. So you are going to, we're going to be at Hotel Classique in front of the shopping malls in Sainte-Foy. So it's really, when you arrive in Quebec City, it's like directly there. It's on the other side of the bridge. So yeah, it's easy to find. It's close also to Université Laval. So it's easy to find. It's not too far either from the bus station in Sainte-Foy. So when we're going to start at 9 directly in Hotel Classique in the meeting room. On the first 1.5 days, so from January 22nd to January 23rd, we are going to go hands-on into laptops, mobile devices, cellular phones, and also work with a router to be able to appropriate the materials. And after that, in the afternoon of the 23rd, we're gonna do the mock final exam. So you have 3 hours to be able to complete the mock final exam. And on the 24th in the morning, it will be time for the actual exam. So you will have to complete the satisfaction survey for the course, and then the exam will be open. Then you will be able to complete, you will have the whole morning to complete the actual exam. In the afternoon, and the moment that you are finished the exam, you will be able to go back to your communities. Are there any questions for next week? What can we study for the final exam? I would say review the whole curriculum if you can, or at least look it up and make sure you understand everything that we've seen before, because the final exam is on everything that we've seen. So there is not it's really on the 14 chapters. Of course, it's less. It doesn't go as much in details into every chapter as every chapter exam, but the idea is it's a synthesis of everything we've seen during this semester. Is this clear, Garu? No problem. Very good. Any other questions? Okay, so everything is clear. I'm glad. So if everything is clear, I'll let you go. We'll see each other on Wednesday, and if any question pops up between now and next week, make sure to write me an email. On Monday, I will be training the French cohort, so I might be hard to reach. If there's anything that happens on Monday from this weekend to Wednesday, please write an email to Jane Hicks. I'm going to give you her email address. Because she will be more available at that moment than I would be, because of course I will be training the other cohort at the beginning of next week. So make sure if anything happens, Jane Hicks will be there to answer you. And you will see her on Wednesday. Also, she's supposed to be with me for greeting you. So I'll let you go. I'll see you next week. And yeah,